me at Cello, Cello. You had me at Cello. You had me at Cello. Oh, you had me at Cello. Hello, everybody. 5 o'clock on a Friday again. Time for another episode of Cello Chat. Very much looking forward to this. My guest is Robin Hasenpflug. Robin, it has been a while.
It has been a while, Benjamin. I know we met in, I believe, Madison. I think you were playing in the chamber orchestra with me once upon a time, and
Right.
yeah, that's quite a long time ago. But it's great to see you again.
Likewise. Boy, my recollection was that we were dialed in, and yet the composer kept kind of wanting us to change various,
Right.
It was so strange.
Yeah, it was. But haven't we come a long way with that sort of work?
Yes, right.
As humans do, we've managed to master that too.
Yeah, amen. All right.
Yeah.
Well, will you start by introducing yourself and your musical history, your musical background?
Okay, I think I can do this in a minute or less. My name is Robin Hasenpflug, as we know. I started playing the cello at age 9, and it wasn't until I was about 15 that I was bitten hard by the bug. Like, I knew there was actually a moment where I knew it had to be. So I've been playing professionally. I went on to conservatories. I studied at the Baldwin Wallace Conservatory in Berea, Ohio, near Cleveland, which provided some amazing opportunities being near the Cleveland Orchestra. And then on to the University of Cincinnati, where I got my master's degree in performance as well. And Cincinnati was my springboard into the freelance world. So I was there for a few years after graduate school. My then husband and I moved on to Germany as he was in the Air Force Band. And I was the one who was like, hey, we have an opportunity to go to Europe. Let's do this. Did a few years in Germany, studied with a wonderful, wonderful teacher, Hans Christian Schweiker, out in Aachen, which is near Cologne. Then Chicago, which is when I actually won that position in the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra, which I sadly resigned from about over a year ago. So I had been in there for about 19 years with the chamber orchestra, my beloved chamber orchestra. But life takes you in different directions, and once we start to talking, you'll understand. And I know you know this with freelancing and being a musician. All fun things, though. All exciting, interesting, fun things. I cannot complain. My career has gone. As a performer, my career has gone in all sorts of directions musically over the past maybe only 10 years. And as a teacher, my teaching philosophy and my approach to students has changed dramatically and evolved over the years as well. So,
yeah, I like that on your website. You not only speak to being a lifelong learner, but you go on about that a bit. And I mean, that's such a critically important attitude.
Well, I think so. It's so easy to get stuck in thinking I should be here, when music and all art, if you are truly an artist, you evolve. You have to evolve. And I don't necessarily just mean improve your chops. I mean, like Yo-Yo Ma is still learning, and he's one of my biggest inspirations. So yeah, that's why I don't think unfortunately, there's no end game for being a musician.
No, or fortunately,
True.
Especially if we enjoy the journey. All
yes.
Right. Well, so can you talk a bit about your experiences with the life as a performer? Because I know a lot of the younger folks in particular watching this, it stays, of course, a bit of a mystery as to how this happens after one graduates. And of course, part of why it's a bit of a mystery is it's a different path for everybody. But yes. How did this work for you to find venues, ensembles, to make a living as a professional cellist?
Yeah, and like you said, I think everybody's story is different. Mine was such that I was hell-bent on becoming an orchestral musician. From that 15-year-old moment, when I was 15, excuse me, when I heard the Pines of Rome, I was sitting principal in my youth orchestra, and we played Pines of Rome, and the clarinet solo right before the Nightingale comes in. You don't know the piece, you have to listen to it. I'm not speaking to Benjamin. It hit me. I started crying, and I just knew like I wanted to do this forever. It just, my whole soul got it. And so I went on to do all the orchestral summer festivals, and I geared myself towards excerpts. And so over the years of many, many auditions, I always say I had bones thrown to me. I had people who, or experiences that kept me going, kept me in the game. I got a substitute list here. I got things like this, and this started happening to me. And then ultimately the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra came, and I was blown away that I won an audition, so as anyone who wins an audition, I hate to use the term win, but accomplishes success in an audition, you hold on to that. And luckily for me, I loved that group, but between then and, that wasn't my only job. And I think that's what you're asking about, like, how do we piece together, or cobble together, I call it, a living. So for me, I didn't win the big orchestral position. I won a lot of little ones, regionals. And so I knew that at a certain point, I said, okay, well, I think this is going to be my career. Maybe something big will happen, but I'm not leaving music just because I didn't get the massive job that I was hell-bent towards. And then I all along the way, I was private teaching. I still teach. I still play weddings. And I've grown to really love all the facets of my career. And I say grown to love because, like I said, I was trying to be only orchestral. And so when I started teaching, I really had to shift my attitude because I had to make a living for myself. And I was still learning. I was learning how to play. I was learning how to teach. I was learning how to be a professional. So the lifelong learner piece applies to the teaching as well, and to the weddings, and to dealing with clients. None of this was taught. This is things I sought to create my own career. Excellent. Does that answer the question? It's kind of a tangent.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. And then along the way, you have also played outside of the classical world. Mm-hmm. I know there's some young folk who would be interested in how that happens as well. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start a little bit before I actually started to play. So rewinding a bit to why I feel comfortable in that role as well is simply because in my family, there was a huge push for classical, and my dad was a huge jazz aficionado. So those were the only two kinds of music he respected. But as a teenager and a normal suburban kid, I was listening. My favorite band was The Police. Then I got into prog rock, Rush, and Yes, and I just started to expand my brain. And in retrospect, those were kind of the bands that were more orchestral, so it kind of added up. But my dad had the record player on, and he passed away 2 years ago, and I took all those Beethovens. I have all his vinyl from, I think it's Stokowski. So he wanted, and jazz. Every time we were in his Cadillac going to dinner somewhere, he had this great jazz station. And I grew up in Buffalo, New York, big jazz town. So I was like, I forget the word. I was infused with music that wasn't classical on a regular basis. But then, what grabbed me was classical. So I trained in that direction. And then just here's how you get into the other realm. Friends, connections, opportunities. I started saying yes to everything. And then once I got on stage with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra for the first time, it was like a flip was switch. I was like, oh my gosh, I kind of forgot my passion for this stuff. And because I was in a new element, but it also triggered my old self and my old desires, and well, not desires for music. It was my old fun. the stuff I used to do before I got all serious and classical. Um, I think once you're lit up by something, people see it. And I was grabbed into this one and that one. And so there was Josh Groban, Michael Bublé, which I wish my dad was alive to see me play with Bublé, because that was my dad's music, you know. Yeah, so those things, just, you meet people, you build connections, you show up. And when I mean that, is 360 degrees. You show up, you learn what's required for every different venue, you dress appropriately, you carry yourself appropriately, be friendly, never ever 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 be late. You know, I learned these things the hard way, so we all make mistakes, but if you take them as data points, your bridges are built. I wasn't connected, I wasn't wealthy, I didn't have people already waiting for me to be in the profession. I did it myself because I wanted to and I loved it. And I think that's where people can latch on to your dreams.
Outstanding and well said.
Well, thank you.
I love that. I love that. Now, there are some clips on your website where it says Robin Hasenpflug, composer.
Oh yeah, that was another thing that I didn't see coming. I think maybe it's a stretch to call myself a composer. It's like the way I cook. I assemble. I go into the fridge and I say, well, I have this and I have this, and that sounds pretty good together. What if I did that? That's really So I was asked to write music and assemble music both for a play at a university near Pittsburgh, Slippery Rock University. And that also involved costuming and a little bit of acting, which I also was like, this is fun. I didn't know I could do this. And so that, I still have that score. That was more assembling other people's works. But then I got a playwright in Chicago. Sadly, this never launched, but he asked me to do incidental music for a play, which I don't know. I put stuff on paper. I heard it in my head. It wasn't because I'm a composer. It was because I'm a musician. I was able to assemble something pretty good, you know, for somebody who's not a composer. And then the next one was a few years ago at a performing arts high school here in the Pittsburgh area. I'm saying here, but I'm actually in Nashville today. But in the Pittsburgh area, the Elephant Man, the production of the play, The Elephant Man, I was asked to write the incidental music for that. And again, I just heard stuff and I wrote it down. And I liked doing that very much. I think that I would do more of it. My ex-husband is an extremely wonderful composer. So I kind of lived in his shadow. And so when I wrote my own stuff, I was like, oh, this is really basic. But when I started to do it, it just became fun and natural. And so we'll see. That might take me in a direction as well. I have that whole Elephant Man. I performed it. It was solo cello. I have it on my website as well, if anyone's interested in hearing my stuff. Not complex, solo cello, but that's my wheelhouse, and It was fun.
Nice, nice. Well, and even having that attitude of just thinking up new stuff, being willing to think new stuff.
Yeah.
See if you agree, but there can be times with our students where if we're not careful, they can treat the notes on the page as this museum piece. Do you know what I mean? And it's not just that to make a mistake on stage is a mistake in and of itself, but now it's no longer true to this document. As opposed to when we practice, if we wear a composer hat or even an arranger or an assembler hat, as you kind of say, it gives your brain just more freedom and more comfort with what you're trying to convey as a performer. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I always feel that this, God, I have so much to say, Benjamin. I don't even know where to start. Recordings and editing and perfection on recordings. It's so much like airbrushing a model to me, because that's not real. The editing that goes into perfecting a recording is really damaging to all of our psyches. So when we all try to look like a supermodel, you can't, because it doesn't exist. They are also, edited, so to speak. So getting back to your topic, perfection really, like I said this once on Facebook and everybody was like, wait a minute. But I'm like, I said what is it? It was something like the aim for perfection. When you're trying to be perfect, it kills creativity. It's like the death of creativity when you're trying to be perfect, because you don't learn how to get yourself out of scrapes, and you're not thinking about the end game, the canvas. When I think about music, I start from the end. What does it sound like? What is it supposed to sound like? What is a composer trying to create here by saying accelerando, diminuendo, forte, piano? And I've been teaching my students that fortes and pianos are characters. It's a character description. It's dynamic. The word dynamic doesn't mean volume. We're talking about shading this canvas. So I have no idea what your question was, but I think that that's what's in my brain, whatever you said.
Yeah. I don't know, for some students, it's improvisation that gets them to loosen up certain parts of the brain. But for others, it's composing or arranging.
Yeah. Well, so you're in charge of a composition. Yeah, absolutely. Because you are the creator. And that's hopefully gives you freedom. I know when we study composition, there's rules and etc. But there are some fine composers who never studied composition. There's fine musicians who never went to conservatories. So you can be your own chef.
Well, okay, that's a good segue, I think, to the motivation question. Just one of the idée fixe of this series is this sometimes elusive thing called motivation, which even for some people, it's just on particular days they need to find a way to get themselves to get their instrument out. And for others, it can be a longer term thing. But once people find a real love for the process of practicing, they're basically there. How do you help your students who need assistance getting there?
It's funny because when you talk about motivation with students, I think teachers need motivation as well. And so working from the first point, motivating my students, that's something that I had to learn too, as far as how to do it effectively. And how to motivate my students effectively isn't a cookie cutter thing, as is teaching all my students. Everybody responds differently to a different tactic. When a student comes into my studio and I can see that they're a little saggy, and then they say, well, I had soccer, blah, blah, blah. And I need them to get back on track. I don't make them play what I assigned them last week. I try to do fun things. And fun is a humongous part of teaching. We pull out duets. We hear how the cellos sound beautiful together. Even my very, very beginners, we just do whole note duets, and I do a harmony. But I guess to answer the motivation question, it comes for young people, it's about having fun. For my adult students also. For myself, I've learned a lot of my own discipline through my fitness regimen, which became a big part of my life over the years. And one thing that I tell myself is when I don't have the motivation to work out because I'm tired, I don't have the motivation because I have a little cold, I say to myself, well, I'm going to have to work out tired. I'm just going to have to work out sick. I'm just going to have to, because we're not always going to have the angels behind us going, oh, music. Sometimes because it is such an important part of fertilizing the soil as a musician, you have to keep going and you have to have consistency. And with us, we need these calluses and we need to keep this going. Sometimes I think you just have to know that you feel like awful, and sometimes you're just going to have to when you tell yourself, I have to practice feeling awful, I kind of feel like it helps you get it out. Okay, I'll get the cello out. And sometimes just getting, when I was little, if I just had it out of the case, I was good. And so I try not to push away the bad feelings. I try to work with them. Really, this is for just me. I because for me, I can't not practice. I can't not. I mean, yes, we take breaks. Like for instance, I'm nursing a little bit of a tennis elbow this week, so I have the time to take a break. I mean, we do need to be smart about it, physically, but mentally. And then again, speaking of breaks, sometimes a break is necessary for a student. But it's hard. My teacher in undergrad, Regina Mushabach at BW, she was like, you got to go right to grad school. I don't like the gap year idea. I don't like the thought of you. And maybe she was speaking directly to me, or maybe she just thought about this for all students. I don't like that idea of, you need that momentum. Don't take too much time off. Don't do it. So there's a fine line, but I think going back to just having fun, not necessarily doing etudes or scales that lesson. Maybe you need to pull out something you've always wanted to sight read, or, something more delicious than your Sevchik. Well, that's pretty delicious. I guess that's a bad example. Kosman.
Yeah, that's a good example. Well, okay, then as a lifelong learner, do you have, how do you go about finding additional sources of knowledge or inspiration for areas where you want to go further in? I mean, I know with the internet being what it is, there's a degree to which you can just kind of click on things and go, oh, wow, that's really cool. I'm going to follow that. But do you have a strategic approach of how you advance, how you move your teaching and playing down the field?
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of my fellow private teachers who still go and do, the next book in Suzuki or conventions. I actually don't have time for that. Like I always say, someday I'm gonna, but I honestly don't. So I did get a Suzuki certification. I book one, and that was sort of my launching pad to pedagogy, I think. And it really helped me. I basically seek knowledge from my fellow teachers, and then once in a while, like when I was in Madison more often, I did take an independent study with Janet Jensen, I believe is her name. She taught me bass because I was preparing for an adjunct position in Pennsylvania, and I needed a little bit more. I knew I was going to have to teach bass, and I knew I was going to have to teach students. So I would go to other people, but I also learned from watching my son's teachers teaching when he was a little boy. Miss Rowena, her last name was Gutana. She's a great pedagogue, excuse me. I was going to say pedagogy and pedagogue at the same time. Right. Watching her with my son, I was definitely like, oh my gosh, this is great stuff. Because I would sit in on his lessons and I would just absorb what she was doing with him because it was so effective. And my son is on the autism spectrum. He's high functioning. And at the time, his focus was all over the place. He's 16 now. He's learned how to rein it in very well. But she had him like, boom, like she had him. And I was like, how did you do that? I've managed to learn from my colleagues. And then if I really feel like I need a bump in a different area, I'll go to a professional and take lessons.
Tremendous. All right. Projects coming down the pike in 2023 or upcoming performances?
Yes. Well, in the near future, I'm working with the Pittsburgh Youth Chamber Orchestra summer program. That is in 2 weeks. I'll be coaching an adult chamber group and playing with them. I cannot wait. I love coaching chamber music, number one. I love playing chamber music, and to work with adults is another one of my passions. I've really grown into that role. So that's coming up pretty soon. In October, I get to play on the Violins of Hope tour. I don't know if you're familiar with that. They're coming to Temple Rodef Shalom. Sorry, the one in Chicago is Shalom. The one in Pittsburgh is Shalom. And I'll be playing on one of those instruments. We're just now assembling that program. So I can't tell you what composers will be on it, but we're working on that. So those are big things. I'm getting married in July, and I've been getting some work here in Nashville because my fiance lives here, and soon I'll be moving here. So I've had so far I've subbed with the opera orchestra, and I've worked with their contemporary music ensemble Intersection, and I'm just starting to gather work. I'm no stranger to moving into a new city. It's happened many times for me. So I don't know too much about what's happening in the fall. I'm still playing in the Butler Symphony in Pennsylvania, which has grown by leaps and bounds over the years. I love my position there. I love leading that section. So I'm going to have one leg in Nashville and the other one in Pittsburgh this coming year. All
right. So that's why the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra was just going to be too many.
3 cities, yep, and a son. Nope, couldn't do it.
How far of a drive is that from your Western Pennsylvania?
Or to Wisconsin?
No. Between Nashville and Western Pennsylvania.
It's funny. They're about the same amount. That's about it's about a 9-hour drive, but I've been flying.
Okay.
I've been flying. Thankfully, and I will plug Allegiant and Southwest because God bless their very, very low fares. They've been very useful for me. And I have a trunk for my case, the overcase for the band case. And because I'm not in a place where I'm just going to buy the tickets all the time. So there's a cello here for me, but when I need my good one, I just hold my breath, put it in the trunk, and hope for the best. Yeah. I've never had any problems though. Just plugging them. My God, that's an amazing travel case. Never ever one problem.
Yeah, outstanding.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thanks so much, Robin. This has been a
thank you
exploration of a whole bunch of ideas and food for thought.
Yeah. I guess. Go ahead. Right.
Oh, I was you after you.
Oh, I guess my takeaway that I want, or the takeaway I'd like people to have, musicians, young and old, is that saying yes, say yes and make it work. I mean, if you are willing to do the work towards whatever it is, don't limit yourself. I think expanding my career into the rock and jazz and composition has been really gratifying, and it's led to so many wonderful opportunities. Yeah.
What could be more inspiring than that? Excellent. And we'll practice all week as a result, and I'll see everybody this time next Friday.